I don't
Yep.
ask everyone this,
Okay.
but I feel like you got the answer. And this is a ballsy old question. What's the meaning of life, Chris?
Ooh.
Okay, now just for a
Well,
little bit of context for anyone who's listening, I know for a fact Chris has a good answer here, so I'm not just throwing out the nastiest question possible out of the blue on a show. But tell us your thoughts on the meaning of life, because I think it's so important for people finding purpose with what they're doing.
yeah. So when I was 18, I picked up a book in the library, the school library, college library, about Buddhism, and I read it, and I thought, oh shit, I'm Buddhist. Guess what? Not many Buddhists in Wigan. I thought I best go find out about this. So I went to India, and turns out I went to a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and I taught English to the monks. Turns out not a good place to learn about Buddhism. Different story. But anyway, when I was there, I made a friend, Justin, and crazy Australian nurse. He was a great guy. But he told me this story. He'd been at an event with the Dalai Lama in Australia a couple of years before.
Right.
And this Australian journalist had kind of piped up and said, Mr. Dalai Lama, apparently you've been reincarnated 14 times. You're supposed to be a living Buddha, one of the wisest people in the world. What is the meaning of life?
Right.
And apparently the Dalai Lama laughed and laughed and laughed. And he said, oh, it's such a simple question. The meaning of life is to be happy and useful. And when Justin told me that story, I was like, boom. I was like 18 at the time. And I was like, so simple, but so, yeah. That is the meaning of life. I want to be happy and I want to be useful. And the two kind of come together for me. Like, actually, I'm only really happy when I'm useful. When I'm not happy when I'm focused on myself. I'm happy when I'm focused outwards.
Yeah.
But when I'm being useful, that's my route to being happy. And so that is a mantra that really has taken me through my life and my career and now my business, is that focus on being happy and useful. It's really simple. It's not more complicated than that. Just be happy and be useful.
I love it when you ask someone the meaning of life and they say, "Nah, it's no more complicated than that, Jay." But it's true. I've seen it in our business, right? I've seen people who are extremely useful. In fact, right now, someone who's extremely useful has been working their absolute tail off for an awful long time, isn't particularly happy with that. Like, that's great, and as a business, thank you for doing everything. But is that happy as well as useful? Because I've been in beforehand where I've worked in, say, sales teams, and I've been very useful and detested everything that I was doing and everyone around me and everybody. But I was useful. I was good at what I was doing, even without being like into it. Flip to, say, the job I had, the last, hopefully not touch wood, the last time I'll be employed. My previous role. Now all the employees are like, oh Jesus. Worked in that place, and the focus was on yes, be useful, but it also was on happiness. And I remember, as a salesperson, I can almost boil it down to one comment said to me by a brilliant sales director I had called David Silsby. Now, he was led by a fantastic leader called Michelle Lewington. So this culture in the company was there. But he said to me in the first couple of weeks, and I was a lead generator, so I was booking meetings, just slamming the phones. Yeah, I'm there. I'll see you soon, right? And he said to me, if they don't want it, don't sell it to them. And I was like, right, but loads of people don't want stuff. And he was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Let me caveat that. If they don't need it, I don't want you to sell it to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, but David, we work in sales.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when I started focusing on helping people only, and yes, I've always been a salesperson. I've always been trying to help people and listen to their problems. Sure, but was I? No, I was probably trying to hit my number. And if I help people out along the way, that was great. But that wasn't the focus of the sales team I was in. It was hit your number, right?
Yeah.
When I started focusing on this concept of like, I don't have to sell to you to hit my number, my boss is okay with that. If I turn around and be like, hey, biggest client we had, biggest deal I had, they don't need it. They just don't need it. Yeah. And they're okay with that. Oh my Lord. I started being happy about what I was selling. People started coming back to me and being like, hey, love that. You sold us that one thing we needed. You could have sold us 50, but we needed the one. Now can we buy another 100 things or whatever it was? But me and my personal,
because you build trust.
I did. And I was
Yeah,
happy about it. I was better at what I did. I was making more phone calls. I was closing more business because I enjoyed it. And I wasn't ever like, oh, man, if that person calls back in a week. Like I remember, for instance, selling advertising once to someone. And I'd been quite successful really early on and found this wonderful person. And they bought a 3-month campaign in this thing I was working for. After 3 months, they came back and said, Jay, it was like it was a publication and it was online. And it was this next thing, loads of marketing stuff. And he said, Jay, I haven't got any leads. Not one. The phone didn't ring once after all this money I spent. And this was the kind of place where your boss is always listening in on the
yeah.
phone call, mouthing things to you while he's saying it. And he was like, sell him another 3 months. Uh, really?
Yeah,
It didn't work. And he was like, yeah, tell him this time he's really got to spend some money. I'm like, and I did, right? And I did
yeah,
because I wasn't confident enough in myself or whatever. I certainly wasn't happy in that role, but I wanted to be useful. I didn't sleep. Every time he called, I didn't answer the phone, and that's not me.
yeah,
I was so like nervous, anxious, and like about everything for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. In fact, until that next 3 months finished, and guess what? He called back and said nothing. I
nothing.
was like, man, like, and thankfully no one was listening. And I was like, don't buy it anymore.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
buy it. Go and spend it elsewhere. Get out of here. Right. And funnily enough, from saying that, I was then a lot more content about it. And that guy came back through 7 different roles I worked in and was like, hey man, how you doing? I see you move roles. What you selling? Right.
yeah.
Just an amazing point. I think it's such an interesting concept to focus on being happy and useful because it doesn't seem that difficult of something to implement.
No, no. And yet, if we're all honest, I think it's a good. And I had a, for a long time, from the age of 18 probably till about 35. I can't. That was, I was kind of true to that, and then I sort of just lost sight for 3 or 4 years, and then I was like, wait a second. Oh yeah, dust off that. What have I been doing? But
I had a mantra.
but it is a tough one to face up to, and it goes back to that kind of upfront personal purpose, business purpose. Start with that personal, like check in that you don't have to be miserable at work. Everybody has to live, but guess what? There's other things that you can do, and it's a bit. There is a moral both for the personal story and the business story. That business story, it's lazy making money by doing the wrong thing. That is not the only way to make money or succeed. And actually, what you're doing is that business won't succeed in the long term because you're planting the seeds of your own destruction when you behave like that. Yes, you can do better in the short term sometimes like that. But similarly, so in business, you don't have to just default to always doing the bad thing because you think that's the only way to work. In the same way, personally, there are always other options.
Yeah,
and if you're
100%.
not happy, you don't have to just quit your job today and go,
don't do that, everyone.
Yeah, but there's, you can start to look for stuff and you can start to explore stuff that there is, and just don't settle.
No,
Don't,
and as Chris says, let's not implement a new unemployment spike, but you don't, but you don't have to leave your role and walk in, and kick your boss's door down and be like, you don't change this, man. I'm fucking out of here. This is it. It's over. It's over. You could open up a line of communication and say, hey, I don't like this. I'm not really happy. What can we do? Now, if as we said beforehand, bosses, business owners, whoever you're working for, can't always change everything, and they might turn around and be like, "It is what it is." In which case, fair enough, when you're moving forward to. But I don't know any business owner with the salt who would look at someone who is, a valuable person, a good person who's trying within the business, who comes to them and says, I'm not loving this, Jay. Yeah, what can we do? Who's not going to try at least to do something? And if they don't try, don't work for them.
Yeah, they're
Quit.
not. It's not the right place. Yeah, and
Exactly.
quit once you've got the new job to go to. But a lot of I started my career as an employment advisor, and a lot of people speak to people, and speak to people in work, speak to people out of work, and there's that always perception of, well, I'm really not happy, but I can't do anything else. Well, have you looked? Well, no. Well, why don't you just start looking? You know, it's,
I know it sounds crazy, but what about, right?
yeah,
Chris, this has been absolutely amazing. And I know for a fact that you and I could talk well into sort of the 20th of June. And it's
yeah,
only the 17th right now. But we try and keep these kind of under an hour so people can
cool.
enjoy it while they're working. However, I've seen it, I've watched it, I've learned from it. You release a whole bunch of great stuff. For those out there, where can they find you? Where should people follow you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where primarily I do sort of my sort of outward facing stuff. Drop me a message, and actually on the topics that I started my career as an employment advisor. So if you're out there and you're doing a job and you're unhappy in it and you don't know where to go, drop me a message. I'll give you a free consultation about what you could do and how you go about it. And yeah, my website for my business is www.plpconsult.co.uk. And then the Purpose Collective is www.purposecollective.org. And if you're interested in purpose, come along to a Purpose Collective session. They're free. We get people from all over the world. So I think our record was we had people from 6 different continents. We were like, surely somebody knows somebody on Antarctica.
Who cares about purpose? Come on.
But yeah, so get in touch on LinkedIn. Come along to a Purpose Collective event if you're interested in understanding purpose and connecting with a community of people who are interested in doing stuff in that space.
And you can hear this from Chris, right? There's a lot of people out there, especially in the consultant and coaching space, who like drug dealers. The first thing's always free. Chris isn't that guy. Like, you know, literally the Purpose Collective is genuinely a free initiative to just put these good conversations out there that is not, you know, revenue generating. We've spoken about this beforehand. You're doing this out of the quote unquote goodness of your hearts because it's so helpful for people and it will make just a better environment for all of us. Like
it makes me
really
happy.
cool.
Yeah, it makes me happy. I'm being useful doing it. It makes me happy. We celebrated our first birthday today. We even had like a Zoom sing-along, which was...
Hey! Well, there it is, folks. Hit up Chris today. Congratulate him on the year anniversary of the Purpose Collective. But more importantly, follow Chris because there's just a wealth of content out there that is so useful and it will make you happy. Chris, thank you so much for joining the Jay Show. Really appreciate it. Well, that's it, ladies and germs. Hopefully you learned a little something about purpose. I know I did. I know that there's a bunch of things that I'm going to try and implement now into our teams. Every time I talk to Chris, I just learn something new. What an absolute sweetheart he is. You've listened to the whole show. You've even stayed right until the end here. So do me a favor as well. We've checked the analytics and about 40% of the people who listen to these shows aren't subscribed. So do me a favor, make the rest of the team happy. Go on, make my week. Subscribe to the show so it pops up with all the new interviews and shows and different pieces of content that we've got coming out in the future. And we'll see you on another episode of The Jay Show.